any news. Well, apart from the fact that Dragonflight is going to be released before December the 31st this year, which is pretty big. Not much since last week, actually. Yeah, let's hope it's good and revives the love of the game. 100% agree with you, man. It has to do some stuff like, okay, so if you haven't seen our episode from yesterday, I actually talk about kind of like what's happening with the release of Dragonflight, and also why personally, and I think a lot of people are also worried that it's coming out in December, which we consider that it's a little bit too early. There isn't going to be much time for a beta, as Blizzard like this in their own game or something. Like, I don't know, man. I would expect that if they're doing this, they have a different way that they're approaching the beta, because, I mean, dude, Jesus. Let's think about it. I don't know if I can find. All right, so let me actually pull this up. Can I do this? There you go. Okay, so this is what I'm looking for right now. So BFA. So it was announced. I want to know when it released. August 13th, 2018. So August the 13th, 2018, right? The beta for BFA started on February the 7th, 2018. So this is around 6 months. Alpha, by the way, not beta. Beta started on 24th of April, right? Where you would expect most people have access to the beta. Now from February to August, that's like 6 months and 1 week, right? Am I wrong? Is my math wrong? If it released on August the 14th, let's say, right? And alpha started on February the 2nd, it has to be 6 months and 1 week, right? What up, Vezan? What up, everybody? So that was the whole testing period of BFA. Now, if you recall, if you've played BFA, or if you haven't, then you might know this from hearsay, but it was not enough time, because also Azerite was given to people very late. I don't know when it was put into the beta, but the beta it was 24th of April. Now that would have meant at most 4 months before the expansion released, and I think the Azerite was put in the second half of the beta to test. It was late beta anyway. And people, especially people like Preach, have feedback to Blizzard saying stuff like, you know, Azerite is bad. It's, first of all, it's a boring system. It's an awkward system. It's weird. It's clunky. It's annoying. It's so annoying, and it's not going to work, right? But Blizzard didn't have time to fix that. So what ended up happening was it released the Azerite, I mean, in the state that it was in. And because they would not have time to implement all the feedback, they actually started to work on a fix for the Azerite powers, which were the essences, which we only got in 8.2. So that was whole 2 patches later, a year, and I think around a year later is when we got the fix for Azerite power. Because I'm saying this because there were a lot of people in the comments in our video, which obviously it's YouTube comments, it's fine. But if this perception permeates into the community, there's a lot of people saying that there's plenty of time, that they've done it before, that they've been working on the game for longer than we did. Yes, we know. Okay, listen. They've most likely started to work on Dragonflight either before Shadowlands released or somewhere around there. They're usually working on the expansion that they're going to be releasing before the previous expansion is basically released. Like they were working on Legion around when WoD released, stuff like that, right? The critical point is the alpha for BFA started 6 months ahead. For Dragonflight, we don't even have that. Yeah, and that was not enough. And we can take a look at Shadowlands as well, right? Shadowlands alpha started a couple of days after April the 6th. So April the 6th, the beta started on 15th of July. Luckily, we were in like the second wave of invites for alpha, so it was like a couple of weeks after. I think it was 2 weeks. In any case, it was on April, right? And the expansion released. When did it release? Winners get account wide, right? Let's check this out real quick. The release of Shadowlands, man, all of these ads are fucking crazy, dude. Release November 2020, so it was what is this? November, and it started in April. 7 months, a little over 7 months, and it was obviously not enough. It was not enough because the Torghast fixes were horrible. We barely had time to properly test the maw, not to mention that when Shadowlands, and I think to an extent, I didn't get into the BFA beta early, that was only Marcelian. I got into the BFA beta way later, but I did get into the Shadowlands pretty early, and at the beginning of Shadowlands, you only had, I think, Revendreth and Bastion as zones to test, and Torghast, right? There was the Unpruning as well, which was awkward because if you recall, Survival Hunter got Killshot and it couldn't be used because you required a ranged weapon for Killshot. So that was the state that things were released in Shadowlands Alpha that we had to test. We had to say, hey man, what the fuck? And those things were eventually changed and fixed. Now, similarly to that kind of stuff, we have the talent system right now, which I don't know how well. Can I get rid of those ads, please? Let's just put my handsome face on the screen. Let's put it this way, right? From as much as we know, Marcelian and I, and speaking with Theory Crafters, the talent system being revamped is huge. Let me just get into some of the comments here, just so that we can move ahead with this topic. Real good point is the alpha for BFA started 6 months later. Dragonflight, yeah. What up, Resin? 7 months prior. There you go. Yeah, we don't have to test 4 different covenants with abilities, soulbinds, legendaries this time though. Yeah, you do say that, but that's not. I still don't see that as the same vein as talents. Think about it this way, man. If you want to think of the class, the spec that you're playing, let's take Fire Mage for whatever reason. That's Christy. For whatever reason, we're talking about Fire Mage, right? The Fire Mage class, with everything that it has, think about it as a tree, right? The conduits are kind of like the conduits, legendaries are kind of like the leaves. The covenants are kind of like the branches. Tier sets are also kind of like leaves. The spells and the talents are like the trunk, right? The roots of the spec. That's where it starts from. So when you have a spec, the way it performs, the way that the spec functions comes from its spells and talents. Let's say spells would be the first thing, the spell book, right? So you build on top of those, right? You already had a foundation to build, to add covenants and legendaries and conduits and all of that good stuff. Now what's happening is that the roots of the spec is being redesigned from ground up. Sure, we don't have as many systems anymore, but the whole spec might not even function. Like, you didn't need to play covenants and soulbinds and conduits legendaries to be able to play the spec. Sure, some specs were wonky and funky, but you could play them. You could press your Frostbolt and you would eventually get some Brain Freeze and Fingers of Frost procs, right? And get your damage out. But now we're having all of that from the ground up redesigned. And I say redesigned because if you look at the DK tree, it's so fucking weird, man. And we had the podcast on that. I'm not going to go into details about the talents. If you're curious about how the talents are for the 2 classes that we have so far, you can check our podcast on our Mocast channel. And I'm not going to go into details about that. But now we're basically having the whole system redesigned, which is a very ambitious process and an amazing process. I am so fucking glad about this because I've been like trashing the fucking Excel spreadsheet talents, like Marcel likes to call them, for fucking years, man. Now, it doesn't matter what systems they add or what systems they don't add. If the core of the spec of the class has problems, then the whole game has problems. It doesn't matter how cool dragon riding is. It doesn't matter how cool you can customize your little tame your dragon. It doesn't matter how cool the professions are in the new zones and the stories and the raids. If your class is fucking shit. And if you've listened to our podcast about specs, you will be able to tell that the talents that they've released that we have so far are not good. They're not good. They're not good. They're not balanced. We're not even going to talk about what, 9.0, when people were complaining that Feral didn't have a fucking raid utility and everybody was picking Boomkins. There was no reason to take a bear or a resto druid. Fuck that. Boomy gets all of the good utility now and Feral gets a fat dick. So this is the state in which the talents are at release, and that's fine in the premise that we're gonna have time to test all of them out. Now, of course, the versions of the game that are public to us, the Blizzard releases, are about a month behind what they are working on, right? So likely when they released the Druid and the DK talents, they were probably working on X more classes and specs. They already had some plans and already strategies working, and they were probably going to listen to the feedback about Druid and DK and apply it to, of course, Druid and DK, and also to the classes that they're working on putting up forward. So, and you take that further, what we know right now is just tooltips. If you listen to people like Guiltius, who's actually done the fucking math, and not just him, he also has a big post on Feral, you can tell that just from the tooltips there are problems. Not to mention actually taking those talents into the game and playing, I don't know, dungeons, raids, world contests. Like, we don't even know how those two functions, and we only have 2 of the 13 fucking classes. So this is the problem with the expansion being released. Like, okay, prove me wrong. They have hired a lot of people right now, and they might have enough workforce to work on, I don't know, 2 times more things than they did in the previous betas. Fine, sure. I mean, we don't know that, and we can only speculate at this point. But this is the problem with getting it this early. It doesn't look like it's going to be enough time for us to test, because not only do we only have two classes with talents so far, we don't even have alpha yet. It's likely, although it's not confirmed, that in-house family testing alpha has already started. We have covered that a couple of weeks ago with the game script code, whatever database having the alpha text in them, so it's likely that the alpha has been implemented. In-house family, friends, alpha invites are very usually restricted. It's pretty much nothing public. Then you have the closed alpha, and then you usually have either closed or just open beta, right? So this is the normal process that at least has happened in the last couple of years that we are expecting to get. Now, alpha isn't out yet, and taking this further, right, they will almost never, unless it's just weird, they will almost never conflict releases. And what I mean by that is that Season 4 is about to launch, right? Season 4 is about to launch, and from the announcement of Dragonflight, we also expect that the beta or alpha or whatever you want, the testing for Dragonflight is also about to launch. They cannot coincide because there's too much testing that needs to do. So normally they would, I don't know, segment those releases or stagger them so that we can, you know, test one thing and then test the other. This is how it always been with past PTRs. Doesn't have to be with new expansions. But if you look at, you know, patch like 9.2 beta, 9.25 beta, they will always started after the current content has been played for around a month or 2. Now, if we're gonna take that into consideration, we don't have Season 4 yet. Let's say they put Season 4 out tomorrow. What is tomorrow? Tomorrow is the 24th of June, right? Let's say they put Season 4 out tomorrow, which obviously is not gonna happen. We will need at least a month to test it, to see how it is, so that we can actually go, because nobody's gonna play Season 4 if the beta for Dragonflight is gonna release, right? Who's gonna play fucking Season 4? Or vice versa, who's gonna play a one zone, one class, Drakthir, Drakar, whatever, Evokers, limited content in the Dragonflight beta is gonna be available if you have Season 4 out. So there's not gonna be enough information for them to collect to have a proper feedback review. So with that in mind, they will likely release the alpha or beta at least a month after, which means it will be at the earliest at the end of July, which I highly doubt. Be it at the end of July, let's say August, right? That puts us 4 months before the expansion is released. Now, I don't know what you've been looking at so far, but past expansions, Shadowlands had 7 months of beta. BFA had 6 months of beta. Legion had 2015 November, and Legion was released November 2015, August 2016. So almost, what, 10 months later? 10 months of beta, Legion. And Legion was a fucking good expansion. Sure, it has its problems, but it was good, man. Design-wise, it was fucking good. 10 months of beta, that's more than double what we're gonna have Dragonflight. So this is why a lot of people are worried about the time frame, the release date being too soon, and so on and so forth. Hey, I'm calling it right now. This is the 23rd of June. It's 11:46 a.m. where I am. Prove me wrong, Blizzard. Prove me fucking wrong. Prove me wrong and show me like, hey, listen, Flame. You don't know shit. You're not a game designer. We got it. We got you, man. We got you. Come 2023, you're gonna enjoy soaring through the skies of fucking Dragon Isles, riding your own red spiky dragon, because that's gonna be my dragon, and we're gonna like conquer the fucking Dragon Zone. Oh look, there's a different Marcelian there. I guess that's fine. We can have multiple Marcelians. All right, so that is essentially my personal worry. Obviously, I might be off. Obviously, it's subjective. Obviously, I'm biased because I don't have all the information. But if you're going to speculate and you're going to draw conclusions, you're going to draw conclusions from what you have and looking at the patterns. And this is what we have. I'm sure the X-Pack will be delayed. It's a trend these days. That would be good, man. I mean, it sucks. And they might encounter some possible legal issues because, to my knowledge, and I don't know exactly the law because obviously it applies differently in different countries. But when I mentioned this yesterday in the video as well, when it comes to Warcraft 3 Reforged, right? There was this the BlizzCon in November. I don't remember what year it was. Was it 2019 or 2018? Let's say 2018, right? 2018, and they said that you can start pre-order it, and by the end of 2019 you'll have Reforged, and I think Reforged was released later than 2019. And that might have been some legal battles on their end. One thing I'm really curious about, how many people did already buy the pre-order. I bet Blizzard is already cashing. Listen, man, I'm down with buying the pre-order. I kind of want the collector's edition, but we'll have to see. I don't mind pre-ordering, right? Mostly because obviously I want the goodies, not necessarily about pre-order because I could just buy the Epic Edition then. But considering how WoW expansion releases are and there's all hectic in the day of the release, I don't really want to buy it on the day of the release because that's weird. I want to install it before and I want to play on the first day. First of all. Second of all, I'm a content creator. I kind of need to have as early access to everything as possible, right? So I can make the content. So if, you know, pre-ordering gives me quicker access to alpha, beta, or whatever, it kind of goes into the creator narrative, right? It is what it is. So from that sense, I'm more likely going to pre-order it. But if I wasn't a content creator, I'll probably still pre-order it. Maybe not now, but maybe a month or two before, just to make sure that on day one, if I wanted to play on day one, I have it and I can play it.